Our story today is a folk tale, and I cannot remember for the life of me which folk. So you're just going to have to go with it. There was once a beautiful meadow, and it was lodged right beside a wonderful forest and a beautiful creek. And in this meadow, there were mice. And they built themselves a happy place to live, with all sorts of burrows and homes and wonderful places. But one day, the king of the mice looked up and saw there were elephants coming out of the forest. And the elephants came straight for the mouse town and trampled them as they went to get to the river. And they drank, and then they went back to the forest trampling again. Well, the king of the mouse was not very happy about that. And he thought, oh my gosh, they've moved in. They're going to keep on doing this. I've got to do something. So the Mouse King decided to go and talk to the elephants. And he went to the elephants, and he found one, and he kind of tugged on the foot of one and finally got his attention. And he said, excuse me, I know you need to get to the water, and that's okay, but could you go around our village and not hurt us? Because we got a lot of hurt mice, and a lot of the homes are gone. And if you do this, maybe we can do something nice for you someday. And the elephant snickered. Come on, what can a mouse do for an elephant? But you know what? They didn't really want to hurt the mice. They had no wish whatsoever to hurt them. So they complied. And they went just a little bit around the mouse village to drink the water. And then they went around the mouse village to go back to the forest when they were finished. But a couple of months later, the trappers came. And they caught lots and lots of the elephants, and they were tying them up with nets and ropes and just horrible, horrible things. And the more the elephants tried to get away, the tighter the ropes began. And they were scared because they knew the next day they would be sold down the river. And they were scared, so they trumpeted their fear. And the mice heard. And the mice came and they watched and they saw the trappers, and they waited until the trappers went to sleep. And then they came in and they chewed at the ropes and they chewed at the nets. And pretty soon every elephant was free. And they very quietly backed out of the trappers' camp and went away because the mice had rescued them. And the moral of this story is, great or small, we all have something to give. And besides that, we are all in this together. We will now have our RE moment.
Buttigieg is from South Bend, Indiana, and this is from his book, Trust America's Best Chance. To love a country as to love a person is to love a flawed and exquisite creation. To see what is best in it and to be angry when it is not what it could be, precisely because you have seen glimmers of its greatness.
I invite you now to take a moment to center yourselves, to be at peace with who you are and where you are, to take the things that have bothered you and put them up on a shelf for a little while. They will still be there for you when the service is over. Take a moment for peace. Beautiful. Thank you. I do not care for political sermons. They always make me feel as if I'm being told who to vote for from the pulpit, and I am very uncomfortable with that. I will try to avoid doing so, but this is a political sermon. You are warned. For those of you who may be new here, I want to assure you that this sermon is just my opinion, and that many of the people here may well disagree with part or all of it. That's what makes us you-yous. And after the service, we do have a talk back where you get to tell me where I went wrong. I'm going to begin by talking about something that really gets my goat: the misuse of the word great. Google came up with 9 figures in history that have been given the title of great. You know, Alexander the Great, Ramses the Great, Peter the Great. And they were all considered great because they were conquerors and expanded their territory and power, which means they attacked others without provocation. They invaded land that did not belong to them. They weren't great in my book. They were just greedy. They killed, robbed, and often enslaved people who were weaker than themselves. They caused untold suffering, usually to people who had never offended them. They were, in short, thieves and murderers. I don't consider that to be greatness. I have other far less flattering words for it. Yet I've never heard anyone else object to using the word great for those individuals. And I've never heard the word great applied to someone who promoted peace, who fed the hungry, who freed the slaves. I don't understand that. These days we hear the phrase, "Make America great again." And I wonder what understanding people who use that phrase have of the word great. We seem to be at a crossroads. We as a country are deeply divided on a host of issues. Many of us long to be back where we were one country, where we were not so divided. Except that time never existed. There's never been a time in our history when we were one country, when we were not divided. We were always a conglomerate of opposing viewpoints right from the start. In school, we were told that the American Revolutionary War, we were all there together. We wanted to get rid of that king. Everybody and his uncle wanted to get rid of England and be free. Except there were a third of our people who were proud of being Englishmen and wanted to stay with the king. There were only about a third of people who actually wanted to start a new country, and a third of us just wanted to get on with our lives. Never mind all that nonsense. It's frequently been that way for us. And I can't think of any time when we've all been on the same page. Now, there have been a couple of moments when a very strong majority of us had a particular viewpoint, but those times have been rather rare. In 250 years, I can think of only 2 times. Pearl Harbor. Yeah, when we were bombed in Pearl Harbor, that really took us all together. We were horrified, absolutely horrified. And although previously most of the country had been opposed to the war, all of a sudden we were ready to go. We wanted to sign up. We wanted to get them. What the history books don't tell you is that there was a not small undercurrent of our country that thought we were on the wrong side in Europe. They sympathized with the Nazis. Karl Lindbergh comes to mind, and he was not alone. Fortunately, most of them just shut up and didn't say much for a while. After Pearl Harbor was a time when we were strongly in the majority of one thinking. But we were not a monolith even then. We just don't hear about it. 9/11. Yeah, that kind of drew us together. Except there were some folks that were aware that we, the United States, had done some pretty despicable things, especially in the Middle East. While that in no way justified the towers, we were not all ready to go to war over it. Some of us protested for peace. I am one of them. I had a brother who worked on the 82nd floor of the South Tower. A brother I really liked. But I was against us going to war in retaliation, and I went out there and marched and wrote my representatives. Didn't do any good. More than one person told me I was very unpatriotic. Which brings me to a major point that I want to make in this sermon. Patriotism. I have always thought the idea of patriotism was negative, if not downright evil. Don't get me wrong. I love this country, and I feel very grateful that I was born here and got to grow up here. But it doesn't mean that we have always been the good guys. And it doesn't mean that our country is always doing the right thing. And if my country, my government, is doing something that I think it is morally wrong, it is my duty as a citizen, as a human being, to fight against it. My country, right or wrong, is a very bad idea. I can't justify closing my eyes to how tightly we held on to slavery for over 200 years. I can't just pretend that never happened, or that our our country has a beautiful past. I cannot turn aside from when we gave smallpox-ridden blankets to Native Americans that we had just stolen their land and tried to march them to their deaths. I cannot forget that in 1882, the United States passed an act against the Chinese, saying that they were a racially inferior group and not morally acceptable, which justified all sorts of atrocities, including murder. In my lifetime, lynchings of Black Americans were still somewhat common well into my adulthood. And I do not remember ever hearing about anyone being prosecuted for it. So no, we are not nearly as wonderful a country as we'd like to think. Getting back to patriotism, there's a lot of pressure on all of us to be patriots. The word patriotism implies that somehow we are the best. We do things better than anyone else. That's untrue, and it's a brand loyalty I find offensive. Now, to be fair, we are not the only country that does that, not by a long shot. In fact, I think it's the norm. To be a patriot in any country is to put that country first. To say that it matters more than any other country, that our country, whatever it is more important and better than anyone else, and that we are even justified in hurting others if it gains us. And I simply do not agree with that. I think we have a wonderful country. Even with what's going on today, I love it. But I don't think we're better than any other country. I don't think we're more important, and I never think we're justified in bullying anyone else. I actually think we're all in this together, that every country, every person matters. There's a soliloquy on YouTube that kind of says it for me. The original program was called The Newsroom, and a character played by Jeff Daniels is asked, "What makes America the greatest country in the world?" I paraphrase his answer. The greatest country in the world? We're not the greatest country in the world. You say we have freedom? You're going to tell folks that we're the only ones in the world that has freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. There are 207 sovereign states in the world, and over 180 of them have freedom. There is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we are the greatest country in the world. We are the 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, and 178th in infant mortality. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who feel that angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are our allies. I remember when I wasn't ashamed of our country. I remember when to be a racist was a bad thing. I don't want to make America great again because it never really was. It only felt that way if you personally fit into a particular demographic and you really didn't care about what happened to anyone else. If you were white, male, straight, and had some education, you had it pretty good, provided you could ignore what was happening around you. But for women, gays, non-whites, it wasn't so great. What I want is to make America, along with the rest of the world, great for the first time. Because I do think we have greatness in us. I want to make our country great by making it a place where anyone with honest intentions can thrive. I want to make our country great by having us learn how to work with other great countries to make the entire planet a good place to live. You know, I'm going to take back something I just said. There are a couple of times in our history when I think America was great, or at least when we approached greatness. In World War II, during the war, about 450,000 prisoners of war, mostly German, but some Japanese, were shipped to this country. And their experience here was unexpected. Remember, we were still fighting the war, and these soldiers were fresh off the battlefield from killing our boys. But we said the Geneva Convention was our guideline. So we treated them well. They got lots of food, a free, safe place to live, and medical treatment. But what was even more amazing, many of the soldiers worked alongside regular Americans, usually on farms, and they got to know one another. Friendships happened during a war. A large percentage of them ended up spending holidays in American homes where they were treated as honored guests. Most of them were even paid for their labor. And when the soldiers questioned us as to why they were treated so well, we said, well, of course. We're at war with your government, not your people. In all honesty, while we were doing this, we were horrible to our own citizens of Japanese descent. But when it came to the POWs, we treated all of them with the same thoughtfulness. They worked alongside regular Americans, formed connections, were paid for their labor, and reported being totally surprised at the treatment they received because they expected torture and they were treated with respect. The fact that we could do anything like that to enemy soldiers in a time of war is utterly remarkable. That recognition of our mutual humanity, I'm so proud. But then, at the end of World War II, we did something unprecedented, unbelievable. Yes, we still had racial inequality, misogyny, homophobia, and 100 other ugly things. We still had very clay feet. But we did something truly revolutionary, something that had never been done before in the history of the world. What we did was we helped our enemies, our defeated enemies, rebuild. We helped them with their economies, their governments, their very lives. Unbelievable. The people we were just fighting against, the people who had killed our sons and brothers and husbands and fathers, we helped these people. It was called the Marshall Plan. We took war-torn countries and helped them rebuild their economies, their cities, their universities, and we did not take over their governments. We helped them rebuild them. We gave unbelievable amounts of money, our tax dollars, to help them build themselves back up, to get on their feet. We sent our finest people imaginable to help them with everything. We had conquered these people. We could have created an empire, and instead, we created allies, not subjugated peoples. And we did it for both Europe and Japan. It wasn't perfect. We made mistakes. But it had never been done before. That, my friends, was greatness. True greatness. We did that. Unprecedented care for our fellow human beings, even when they had just been our avowed enemies. To a lesser extent, but in the same vein, in the 1960s, we started up a program called the Peace Corps. When it first began, it was not political. It was just a way to reach out and help struggling folks with education and access to resources. We helped whole communities live better lives. And we did it on the basis of need, not creed. I don't know if the Peace Corps today is still so altruistic, but in the beginning it was. That too was greatness. We are not great as a country when we have power over others. We are great when we share our resources and knowledge and help others to live in a safe society where they can grow their potential. We're not great when we have more money or privilege than anyone else. We're great when we see what we can do to make sure that everyone has opportunities to live safe and fulfilling lives. We're never great when we have and others have not. We're not great when we have special privileges for ourselves and leave others out. If we want to make America great again, we must be very clear in just what it is that truly makes a country great. And it's not money or power or any of the other bright, shiny things. We are only great when we are not looking out just for ourselves, when we acknowledge and act on the fact that we are all part of the human family, when we leave no one out, when everyone has the same access to justice, freedom, and opportunity. Because in truth, we are all in this together. So be it. One of our presidents once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." He was asking, no, calling us to be great. You want to make America great? Change the vision. Shout out the vision. Greatness lies in living our values as individuals and as a country. By calling upon our government and our fellow citizens to remember that greatness lies in caring for others, caring about their well-being, their safety, and their inclusion in the circle of humanity. Anything less is not greatness, but greed. I am now going to extinguish the challenge. Our time together is over. But I invite you to take the warmth and the caring with you. And I do invite you to join in the talk back.